Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Big news in the heavyweight division with the rematch between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua being confirmed and landing in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It will be called the Clash on the Dunes, taking place December 7th, 2019. A much anticipated rematch, and clearly this is the biggest boxing event to ever be confirmed in Saudi Arabia, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So the time difference, if you're wondering about that, if you're in the UK, it's not too bad. I'm sure that they will adjust the event. It's only a couple of hours ahead of the UK, so they may probably run the main event at, say, 8:30 in Saudi Arabia, which would be about 10:30 in the UK, 10:30 in the UK, ring walk, all that sort of thing. In terms of a couple of thoughts on this, well, it's overdue because this has sort of been dragged out a little bit because we'd been hearing as early as sort of June 19 that a decision was only sort of a week or two away. We are now in August, so obviously Saudi Arabia had entered into the picture and money has been the winner on the day. And let's not kid ourselves, boxing is a business in disguise. They've gone to Saudi Arabia because the money is bigger than anywhere else. It is a business after all, and money has won out here. I have no doubt about that. The name Clash on the Dunes, it doesn't quite have that ring of, say, Thriller in Manila or Rumble in the Jungle, but I guess someone might be able to come up with a better moniker. You may be able to come up with something yourself that's a bit more catchy. I just had a quick think and I was like, I couldn't really come up with much. But yeah, it must be big money to have enticed them to Saudi Arabia. And I saw an article from Gareth Davis who said it was rumoured to be about £70 million. And if that is the case, obviously Saudi Arabia had deeper pockets than DAZN to bring it back to the United States. And obviously it's not going to be in the UK because Cardiff was the front runner. Eddie Hearn was saying that Cardiff was the front runner just a week ago. So negotiations have obviously continued and Saudi Arabia has come through here and they've announced this. And usually with some of these things, it would actually come together, there'd be a full press release and all that sort of stuff. They've released a video, which you can see on Eddie Hearn's Twitter and other social media channels. And a press release and a further announcement is to come on Monday, August the 12th. So some of this and the finalization of it, obviously the news was starting to get out that it was going to go to Saudi Arabia, and they've come out and announced it with the promo posters, etc. In terms of DAZN dipping out, I'm sure for them they will be disappointed because they were hoping to have an event like this to help build their subscriber base. If it's going to be in Saudi Arabia and not in the United States at Madison Square Garden, Vegas or wherever, I don't think that really helps them too much and they'll probably be bitterly disappointed, but it is a money game after all. And in terms of Cardiff, I think Sky Sports in particular would have wanted it there, be on their home base, and it's much easier logistically to put an event together with broadcasting. They will probably be setting up a big operation and going to Saudi Arabia to do this. And it must be noted that Saudi Arabia doesn't really have a big boxing infrastructure, so they're going to have to import a lot of skills and a lot of foreign talent into the kingdom there to actually set this event up, and that will extend to judges and referees and all sorts and other bits and pieces. It's going to be a real big event in terms of the logistics to get this together, to make it as slick, because this will be a pay-per-view as we know. But I guess it does prove one thing, that Andy Ruiz was really just sort of saying a lot of hot air in the end. He did not have any say. He kept saying he wanted it to be on his terms. He was calling the shots. He didn't call for it to be in Saudi Arabia. I didn't hear him say that once. So he was fronting a little bit, and I don't believe at all his "I'm not going to the UK" was any part of this. I think clearly this was all about money, as opposed to Ruiz having any real influence in this, because he wanted it in the United States, or in particular he wanted it in Mexico. Didn't hear him say once that he wanted it in Saudi Arabia, let alone neutral territory, full stop. But he was adamant he was going to the UK, wasn't going to the UK, and I'm sure there will be some who will see that as it's a victory for him because he didn't have to travel to the UK. But this hasn't been made elsewhere because of Andy Ruiz Jr. It's been made elsewhere because it's obviously the biggest pot of money that they could get for this fight. In terms of Anthony Joshua, this announcement, it does put in context some of that recent interview just earlier in this week, in which it was a little bit of a confusing sort of interview, and some of the coverage out of that reflected that, because he was all over the map in what he was saying. And he was talking about he'd be pushing to get it to Cardiff and yada yada, all these things, but effectively he'd step back from the decision-making process. So I guess it tells us that he was trying to put some distance between him and this decision to go elsewhere. But I think, given he'd talked about America and wanting to, go back and right the wrong, all that sort of stuff, being open to going back to Madison Square Garden, he'd never sort of thrown his lot in, so to speak, with a UK fight. So he didn't necessarily have to come out and make that interview the other day. They could have just made the announcement. So some of it, I think, is a bit messy on a communications standpoint, because I think after that interview, there were a fair amount of people saying, good, it's coming back to the UK, while others were going, okay, well, it looks like they're going to some sort of neutral venue. But what do you make of this? This is going to be a big fight, a big rematch, and a big event for Saudi Arabia. The who wins, well, that will be in other videos, not getting into it in this one, but we have an announcement. Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.